I'm borrowing money from my parents.
Right.
I know so many fighters that are living in the Jackson's MMA gym because they can't afford to have their own apartment. And they're UFC fighters.
UFC competitors appear unbeatable under the dazzling lights of the arena, with cameras recording every move and the scream of tens of thousands resonating in every corner. They're the cage's heroes, fighters who welcome suffering and danger as part of the show. Supporters witness champions confidently making their way to the octagon, their muscles toned, their gazes fixed and prepared to amuse. However, there's a secret reality beyond the walkouts, belts, and cameras. For the majority of fighters, the actual struggle takes place in private, in gyms, flats, and hospitals, where the stakes are survival, food, and dignity. For the great majority, the UFC offers uncertainty, debt, and unrelenting pressure despite its claims of fame and wealth. From the outside, MMA appears to be the ultimate meritocracy, where success seems to be determined by skill and aptitude. Fans all throughout the world whisper their names in awe and acclaim the fighters who outperform the others as battle geniuses. However, a deeper examination reveals a more brutal reality. The UFC functions as a corporation that aims to maximize profit, frequently at the expense of the very athletes who produce it, rather than as a league of equality. As independent contractors, fighters are not entitled to benefits, income guarantees, or employee rights. They battle for purses that might not even be enough to pay for their preparations, never alone support themselves. The athlete absorbs every blow, every drop of perspiration, and every sacrifice made while the promotion benefits. Training for a fight is far more than physical preparation. It is a financial and emotional investment with stakes as high as the octagon itself. A single training camp can span 8 to 12 weeks, with athletes committing every day to exhausting routines in striking, wrestling, grappling, conditioning, and strategy development. Coaches, nutritionists, physiotherapists, and strength trainers are essential, but all come at a cost borne entirely by the fighter. Specialized gyms, sparring partners flown in from across the world, high-quality nutrition, and recovery treatments can easily consume tens of thousands of dollars per camp. For fighters in the early tiers of the UFC roster, these expenses often exceed potential earnings, forcing them to borrow money, take second jobs, or sacrifice comfort and health simply to remain competitive. Even if fundamentals are unstable. Official pay-per-fight amounts for entry-level competitors are low, at about $12,000 to show and $12,000 to win. This seems acceptable at first, especially to spectators who are not aware of the hidden expenses associated with a professional fighting career. However, the take-home pay drastically decreases after deductions for managers, 10 to 20%, coaching fees, 10 to 15%, nutritionists, physiotherapists, taxes, often 25 to 35%, and travel expenditures. After putting in months of work, sweat, and physical danger for a fight that might not even break even, many fighters leave a fight camp with barely $5,000 in net earnings, sometimes less. All progress can be undone by a single defeat, leaving the athlete emotionally and financially exhausted. Medical care is another invisible battleground. Mixed martial arts is unforgiving, and injuries are inevitable. Concussions, fractures, torn ligaments, and joint damage are routine, not exceptional. Yet many fighters lack comprehensive health coverage, relying on personal savings, loans, or family assistance to pay for surgery, rehabilitation, or preventive treatment. The cost of recovery is immense, and for many, it's a choice between healing properly and competing on schedule. This constant weighing of health versus career risk compounds the emotional strain, creating a psychological pressure that few outside the sport can comprehend. Sponsorship restrictions further limit income opportunities. Once a significant revenue source for fighters, individual sponsorships have largely been consolidated under UFC-managed apparel contracts. This change strips athletes of personal branding potential on fight night, funneling income to the organization while reducing the fighter's autonomy. For those not in the upper echelons, social media partnerships or side endorsements are inconsistent, leaving them in a cycle of financial instability. The paradox is striking. Fighters generate immense wealth for the UFC, yet struggle to sustain themselves between fights. The psychological damage is unrelenting. Fighters must constantly balance their personal responsibilities, physical preparedness, and performance. Every setback is more than simply a blemish on their record. It might result in fewer opportunities, cancel sponsorships, or a protracted time of unemployment. There is very little room for error. A fight's outcome and the financial stability of months of training can be completely destroyed by weight-cutting errors, minor injuries, or last-minute opponent changes. Burnout, sadness, and anxiety are prevalent, yet there is little mental health care available. In public, fighters are supposed to project power, self-assurance, and poise while concealing their personal struggles with anxiety, tension, and money concerns. The disparity between top stars and mid-tier fighters further compounds the issue. While a few athletes enjoy multi-million-dollar pay-per-view bonuses, the majority operate under precarious conditions. According to industry estimates, nearly half of UFC fighters earn less than $50,000 annually before expenses and taxes, a figure below median household income in the United States. When accounting for training, travel, medical care, and coaching costs, actual earnings often fall dramatically. Many fighters live in shared apartments or gyms, take second jobs, or borrow funds from family to sustain training. Financial vulnerability is built into the system, masked by the spectacle of sold-out arenas and televised glory. These difficulties are made worse by the UFC's monopoly. The company consolidated elite MMA by acquiring rivals like Pride, Strikeforce, and WEC, which decreased the number of ways fighters could bargain for better terms. The monopsony effect is evident. Athletes run the risk of becoming irrelevant if they don't accept UFC standards. Contracts reduce negotiating power, enforce exclusivity agreements, and restrict outside competition. Even champions have limited flexibility due to inevitable contract extensions. While athletes take on almost all of the risks, the structure guarantees UFC profits. Legal interventions have highlighted systemic inequities. In 2025, the UFC settled a $375 million antitrust lawsuit addressing suppressed fighter pay due to monopolistic practices. While compensation was provided to some athletes, the settlement underscored structural flaws. An organization generating billions for itself while offering minimal security or revenue share to the labor that drives its product. Despite public perception of a glamorous, high-reward career, many fighters are trapped in a cycle of physical risk, financial precarity, and emotional strain. The fighter's life is entwined with sacrifice in every way. In addition to training and competition, many have missed out on possibilities for education, careers, and personal achievements. Relationships frequently suffer as a result of constant planning and travel. The total cost, financial, emotional, and physical, is enormous. Dozens of invisible battles take place behind closed doors for every fight that is celebrated on television. Unpaid bills, postponed medical care, borrowed money, and constant worry. Success is often defined by survival rather than victory. However, fighters continue. In pursuit of a dream that seldom pays out equitably, they exercise non-stop, put up with injuries, and cope with the stress of unstable finances. Every battle is a demonstration of human resiliency, a display of skill as well as tenacity, bravery, and optimism. They live in a world where every choice they make is a calculated risk, where success does not ensure survival, and where their hard work supports a multi-billion-dollar business, while personal gain is still uncertain. Physical and emotional strain converge in brutal synergy. Weight cuts challenge the body, intensive sparring tests resilience, and travel and recovery demand sacrifice. The specter of injury is constant, forcing athletes into difficult choices: compete while compromised or risk sidelining and lost income. This tension is amplified by contract restrictions and organizational expectations. Each fight carries consequences that extend beyond the octagon, shaping careers, finances, and future health. The emotional toll is heightened by public scrutiny. Fans, coaches, media, and social platforms magnify every mistake, every loss, every misstep. The pressure to maintain composure while managing personal challenges is near universal among fighters, yet largely invisible to the audience. There is a fundamental imbalance in the UFC's financial model. Despite being independent contractors who make enormous sums of money, fighters only receive a small portion of profits, roughly 18 to 20%, according to internal surveys. Athletes in the NBA, NFL, or professional boxing, on the other hand, make at least half of the league's earnings. This discrepancy is not coincidental. Rather, it is a structural characteristic intended to increase corporate profit at the expense of warriors. Instead of secured contracts or union rights, fighters' pay varies greatly depending on their performance, marketability, and business strategy. For mid-tier and lower-tier fighters, survival is a continuous battle. Expenses from training, nutrition, physiotherapy, and travel often exceed earnings, forcing debt accumulation or alternative income sources. A single loss, missed fight, or injury can erase months of preparation and financial planning. Many fighters work second jobs, coaching, construction, delivery services to sustain themselves, sacrificing recovery and risking further injury. Financial strain fuels psychological pressure, heightening anxiety and stress. The human cost, though invisible, is profound, and a permanent element of danger is added by medical vulnerability. Because of the severe nature of the sport, fractures, ligament injuries, and concussions are common. However, thorough covering is uncommon, so warriors must manage their recuperation on their own. Both financial and physical risks are associated with injuries. Fighters must strike a balance between long-term health and the pressing drive to compete, frequently foregoing care in favor of quick opportunities. These hazards are increased by the UFC's lack of paid recovery time or guaranteed medical assistance, which results in a system that puts short-term success ahead of long-term welfare. Even high-profile champions are not immune. Contractual constraints, sponsorship restrictions, and automatic extensions limit autonomy, forcing fighters to conform to organizational interests. Negotiation power is minimal, even for those generating millions in pay-per-view revenue. The promotion controls matchmaking, fight scheduling, and marketing narratives, shaping careers to maximize profits. Resistance or non-compliance can result in sidelining, limiting earning potential regardless of skill or merit. Fighters must navigate a hierarchy designed to prioritize corporate gain over individual advancement. Fighters experience the compounded impacts of stress, anxiety, and uncertainty on an emotional level. There is constant pressure to perform, uphold one's public image, and ensure financial security. Resources for mental health care are scarce, and the stigma associated with vulnerability exacerbates suffering. Fighters have to show confidence despite dealing with pressure to perform well, injury, and unstable finances. A human fight that is obscured by spectacle is highlighted by the innumerable invisible intimate struggles that take place for every broadcast victory. Yet, despite systemic inequities, financial precarity, and physical risk, UFC fighters persist. They train through pain, compete under intense pressure, and sacrifice personal well-being in pursuit of a dream. Every punch, kick, and submission reflects a story of resilience. Victory may be fleeting, financial security elusive, but the drive to endure and persevere defines their lives. Survival, not glory alone, shapes the ethos of every competitor. The dichotomy between public perception and lived experience is stark. Fans see lights, cameras, and heroes. Fighters experience months of preparation, financial risk, and physical punishment. Training camps, nutrition, physiotherapy, travel, and coaching consume resources often exceeding earnings. Injuries, missed fights, and losses magnify uncertainty. The life of a UFC fighter is a constant negotiation between ambition, survival, and endurance, underpinned by the knowledge that every step forward carries potential setback. The psychological toll is just as serious as the monetary or physical one. Fighters are constantly watched and evaluated for every move, blow, and choice they make. Public opinion is amplified by social media, resulting in constant pressure. Burnout, sadness, and anxiety are prevalent, yet there is little help. While celebrating achievement, the promotion never recognizes the hidden expenses that most athletes face. The story of beauty hides the realities of day-to-day existence in a dangerous line of work. The UFC's business model reinforces this struggle. Revenue is centralized, contracts favor corporate interests, and fighters bear nearly all risks. Monopolization of the global MMA market reduces alternatives for negotiating better terms. Contractual exclusivity, limited sponsorship opportunities, and rigid matchmaking consolidate control in the organization's hands. Fighters, regardless of talent, are forced to navigate a system that prioritizes profit over welfare, success over sustainability, and spectacle over human cost. Nevertheless, fighters persevere. They demonstrate resiliency in the face of difficulty by continuing to practice, compete, and make sacrifices. Every battle is more than just a sport. It's an expression of human tenacity. Every choice, training session, and octagon moment demonstrates not only skill, but also bravery, perseverance, and optimism. The public rarely witnesses the innumerable unseen struggles that characterize every fighter's path, such as the financial hardship, the physical sacrifice, and the emotional fortitude. The story of the UFC is thus twofold: the spectacle that captivates millions and the hidden reality that sustains it. Behind the lights and applause exists a world of inequality, risk, and resilience. Fighters sacrifice health, time, and financial stability, yet persist out of passion, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of their dreams. Survival, more than to victory, is the ultimate measure of success in this arena. And so, as the lights fade, the crowds disperse, and the cameras turn off, the fighters remain. The real battle continues. Against physical pain, financial strain, and systemic inequity, they endure. Not just for fame, not just for glory, but for the chance to sustain the lives they have built around a sport that asks everything of them while giving back only a fraction. Each strike, each training session, each moment of perseverance is a testament to human resilience, a story of courage unseen, a reminder that the measure of a fighter is not only victory, but the ability to keep standing, keep fighting, and keep hoping. Even when the odds seem insurmountable. The day after the crowd has gone home, the adrenaline has faded, and the lights have been packed away, fighters confront the reality that the octagon only tells half the story. Injuries sustained in the heat of combat do not vanish with applause. They linger. Knees may throb from repeated strikes. Ribs may ache from body shots absorbed in the heat of a fight, and concussions leave their invisible mark, altering balance, focus, and sometimes even personality. For many, this is only the beginning of a recovery process that is costly, time-consuming, and emotionally taxing. Physical therapy, specialized to medical care, and rehabilitation programs are essential, but the burden of paying for these services falls entirely on the athlete. Unlike athletes in other professional sports who receive comprehensive support from teams or leagues, UFC fighters must navigate this world alone, balancing recovery costs with everyday living expenses. Financial strain is omnipresent. Even fighters who went on fight night often leave the octagon having barely covered their expenses. Managers, coaches, nutritionists, and physiotherapists all take a cut. Travel, housing, and equipment further erode earnings. Bonuses and pay-per-view revenue might provide a temporary windfall for the very top tier, but for the majority, the math is sobering. A fighter may have invested $30,000 in a fight camp, only to walk away with $10,000 in net income. That $10,000 must stretch to cover rent, food, insurance, utilities, and the mounting costs of preparing for the next fight. Every fight is a gamble, not only for victory, but for survival. The emotional toll is equally severe. Fighters live in a state of constant mental calculation, weighing risk versus reward in every action. They know that one wrong decision, a misjudged sparring session, a failed weight cut, or a mistimed training schedule can endanger months of preparation and financial stability. Anxiety and stress are the constant companions. Depression and burnout are realities that many hide from the world, because vulnerability is often perceived as weakness in a sport that celebrates toughness and stoicism. Yet beneath the bravado, the human cost is immense. Fighters wrestle not only with opponents in the cage, but with doubt, fear, and the ever-present pressure to prove that every sacrifice they have made was worthwhile. Even beyond the immediate pressures of fighting, athletes face long-term uncertainty. The UFC does not provide retirement plans, pensions, or guaranteed long-term contracts. Once the body begins to betray them, and it inevitably will, fighters are left to confront a future that is uncertain, potentially precarious, and often financially unstable. Years of dedication, training, and sacrifice may not translate into security in later life. Chronic pain, joint degeneration, and neurological issues can follow fighters long after the lights have dimmed. Yet the financial means to properly manage these conditions are often out of reach. For some, the price of a career in combat sports is measured not just in broken bones, but in years of lost opportunities, strained relationships, and lingering health challenges. The physical, emotional, and financial stressors are amplified by the systemic structure of the sport. The UFC's classification of fighters as independent contractors means that they shoulder risks typically absorbed by employers. No health benefits, no paid leave, no collective bargaining power. Revenue from pay-per-view, ticket sales, and sponsorships flows almost entirely to the promotion, leaving fighters with a fraction of the wealth they generate. The imbalance is stark and, for many, inescapable. They cannot easily negotiate better contracts, move to competing promotions, or leverage their labor in the way athletes in other sports can. The power dynamic ensures that the UFC controls not only opportunity, but income, dictating the terms on which fighters can survive and thrive. Yet, in the face of these daunting challenges, fighters continue to show extraordinary resilience. Their commitment is not simply to the sport, but to the life they have chosen, the sacrifices they have made, and to the dreams they refuse to relinquish. Each day is a delicate balance, recovering from injuries, maintaining peak physical condition, managing finances, and preparing mentally for the next challenge. They endure long hours of training, often multiple sessions per day, alongside weight management regimens that strain the body and mind. Sleep becomes a luxury. Social lives and personal relationships are secondary to the pursuit of survival and success in a system that rewards only the very top few. The psychological fortitude required is staggering. Fighters live in an environment of constant evaluation. Social media amplifies praise and criticism alike. Fans scrutinize every punch, every move, every post-fight interview. Coaches, managers, and promoters all exert influence, often with conflicting interests. Every loss, every setback can carry financial, emotional, and professional consequences. To endure, fighters must cultivate an extraordinary level of mental resilience, learning to separate personal worth from external judgment, finding motivation amidst hardship, and sustaining hope when the future is uncertain. In this high-stakes landscape, the fight extends far beyond the octagon.